stories not often told, shots that have been surrounded by rumors. These album covers have held a near and dear place in the hearts of many fans for years. But how did these images come about? And what happened to the people behind them? From the kids on the cover of War in 1984 to the barely covered woman on Mother's Milk. Today we're tracking down the real people behind the covers from your favorite bands and finding out where they are now. The Beatles, Abbey Road. Of course we know Paul, George, Ringo, and John, but what about this guy? On Friday, August 8th, 1969, former salesman and Florida native Paul Cole was enjoying a European holiday with his wife Marion. With her entering a nearby museum, Cole stayed behind, striking up a conversation with a policeman on duty nearby. In the distance, four strange-looking gentlemen, kooks as he called them, walked across the street, one not even wearing shoes. Cole, in his 50s at the time, didn't have any interest in the Beatles' music, not recognizing these strange men crossing the street. Little did he know, at that moment, one of rock's most famous images was produced. Cole's wife, who was an organist, would later purchase a copy of Abbey Road, with the goal of learning a song for a wedding she was playing. After a quick double take and a bit of shock, Cole spotted himself on the album's cover. For decades, people speculated who the mystery man in the background of Abbey Road might be. It took 35 years before Cole revealed his connection to the cover publicly, at the age of 92. Why? He simply didn't care, only sharing the story with family members out of amusement for his own place in music history. Throughout the years, he kept a copy of the album in his house, although admittedly, he never had any interest in playing it. Paul Cole kept his great sense of humor until his final days, passing away on February 13th, 2008. Red Hot Chili Peppers, Mother's Milk. In 1989, American rock band Red Hot Chili Peppers already had 3 full-length albums under their belt. Their fourth effort, Mother's Milk, bringing about their first taste of commercial success. The cover features a black and white photo of the members strewn across the arms of a much larger female, inspired by a promotional poster lead singer Anthony Kiedis owned of 1960s funk and soul band Sly and the Family Stone. Originally, 2 different models were photographed to be used on the cover. One was Kiedis' girlfriend at the time, actress Ione Skye. The other, model Dawn Alane. Alane's photo was the one chosen. Upon its release, national retail chains across the US refused to stock, display, or promote Mother's Milk, as the original cover was edited to have one of Alane's breasts exposed, with no notification being extended to her that the photo would be used on production copies and promotional materials for the album, filing a lawsuit, resulting in the Chili Peppers paying a settlement of $50,000 and altering the image to the censored and more commercially friendly cover we see today. Now an LA-based artist, Dawn has found her passion and career path in sculpture and mixed media, producing multiple fine art projects and custom sports bronze. Exploring a vast mixture of different mediums and ideas, she's gone on to create quite the diverse portfolio across her career. Linkin Park, Meteora. Merging the metal, rock, and rap world together, in 2003 Linkin Park sought to follow up on the success of their first album, Hybrid Theory. What emerged was 2003's Meteora, a name stemming from a set of unique rock formations in Greece, whose history runs deep, housing 24 monasteries built within and atop the rocks, dating as far back as the 16th century. Linkin Park using this geological wonder as the inspiration to drive their project forward. During the recording of the album, the band took a break to oversee the art production for the cover. Their initial idea was to create a mural art installation in Los Angeles, where Linkin Park members could collaborate with Dutch visual, installation, and graffiti artist Boris Tellegen, otherwise known by his pen name, Delta. With the team assembled, they worked throughout the day on the mural, dubbing it Meteora Day. Graffiti, painting, stencils, and photos combined, each person stemming from different styles and background, working on their panels and each other's collectively. Once the mural was finished, Linkin Park intended on using the completed work as the album's cover. But during the process, photographer James Minchin snapped a photo of Delta testing out paint on a piece of cardboard. Among the hundreds of shots taken that day, the band collectively agreed that the photo of Delta should be used on the cover. To Linkin Park, Meteora symbolized the process of creation, having just as much importance as the finished product. Now active in the art world for over 40 years, Delta is seen as one of the pioneers in the field of 3D graffiti, exploring ideas that now transcend the boundaries of graffiti walls. He has shaped his work into completely different directions and mediums, displaying his art not just in galleries and exhibitions, but developing visual art and sculpture for architectural firms, festivals, public, and recreational spaces across the world. Led Zeppelin, Houses of the Holy. Marking a significant departure from their blues rock roots, 1973's Houses of the Holy saw Zeppelin embracing more experimentation with their sound. With this new direction, they entrusted the cover to English design group Hipgnosis, who remained a prolific force in their album history, as well as the history of hundreds of famous album covers moving forward. Photographer Aubrey Powell proposed the idea for the cover to be a family painted with silver and gold makeup. They would then be photographed on the iconic World Heritage Site, the Giant's Causeway in Northern Ireland. Zeppelin, in agreement, shipped the team to be on site in Ireland for 10 days, the first week proving to be very challenging, as Irish weather provided all-day overcast and freezing rain. Each day, the team covered 3 adults and 2 children with silver and gold paint, arriving at the causeway at 4 a.m., seeking a sunrise that was forever hidden behind the gray clouds. As their options were running out, Powell decided that the 2 children would be at the forefront of the session, shooting siblings Samantha and Stefan Gates, combining the shots into a black and white photo collage via multi-printing. Black and white allowed the creative team at Hipgnosis to recolor the photos to their specifications, ultimately having the image airbrushed to provide a more vivid and surreal effect. Stefan Gates would go on to become a television presenter and celebrity chef, hosting over 20 TV series mainly for BBC on food, cooking, and science. He was also the host of Cooking in the Danger Zone, a show about unusual food stories from some of the world's more dangerous places. Oddly enough, Stefan hadn't even heard Houses of the Holy until 2010, where he was interviewed for a BBC Radio 1 documentary on the album. He then traveled back to the Giant's Causeway, listening to the album on an MP3 player. Upon its completion, he felt a great weight had been lifted from his shoulders. Samantha Gates would go on to appear on the back cover of Zeppelin's 7th studio album, Presence, as well as pursue a career in acting, appearing in multiple TV series and made-for-TV movies over her multi-decade career. Now enjoying life out of the spotlight, she resides in Cape Town, South Africa, with her husband and daughter Tallulah. U2, War. In the early 80s of Dublin, Ireland, U2 began releasing music under a post-punk sound. It wasn't until 1983 with their 3rd album, War, that they started to integrate a more anthemic approach. War reflected the political climate of the early 80s, as conflicts arose in the Middle East, and the ongoing struggle of violence carried on with the troubles of Northern Ireland. Instead of choosing military imagery, the band decided to use the face of a boy, Peter Rowen, utilized prior for U2's debut album Boy. Rowen, now years older, stares into the camera directly, toting a cut lip. His stare is no longer associated with the childhood innocence of U2's debut, showing a look and stance almost akin to a prisoner of war. Peter, after seeing family classic Back to the Future, became obsessed with the skateboarding craze of the 1980s. Going on to become a local skateboard champion, he would work for his older brother Clive, who opened Hill Street, a skate shop and landmark of Dublin skate culture. Nowadays, Peter has upheld a 25-year career behind the lens, becoming an award-winning commercial photographer. Specializing in portraiture, he has shot the likes of U2 and professional MMA fighter Conor McGregor, covered London Fashion Week, and worked with notable brands such as ESPN and Guinness. Van Halen, 1984. In 1984, Van Halen was riding on a wave of commercial success, fans loving the 5-album run of Eddie Van Halen's revolutionary guitar skills and David Lee Roth's charismatic presence, the band offering high energy, fun, and catchy rock anthems. Seeking a face for their next album, 1984, they would hire graphic designer Margot Nehas, tasked with creating an image of 4 chrome women dancing for the cover. Nehas was known at the time for her photorealistic airbrush skills. Thinking the job would be a nightmare, she declined the offer. Her husband then took her portfolio to Van Halen directly. Eddie, Alex, and David quickly thumbed through the work, coming across a personal project that they decisively chose. The image was a cherub, or angel-like baby, smoking a cigarette. Once 1984 was released to the public, a rumor soon spread that the angel was David Lee Roth as a baby. The child was actually 4-year-old Carter Helm, the son of Nehas's best friend. She styled Carter's hair, gave him some candy cigarettes wrapped in chocolate candy paper to make them look like the real thing, and after a brief tantrum, he became the perfect character for the shot. Seeing the images the shoot provided, Nahas would find the inspiration for painting the work used on the cover today. Over 40 years later, Carter Helm now lives in the San Francisco Bay Area, now an executive insurance writer for Inland Marine, a type of business insurance that protects movable property when they're in transit. Rage Against the Machine, self-titled. One of Rage Against the Machine's most standout qualities was their unapologetic and defiant push of political messages within their songs. They aimed to be a voice for the marginalized and brought various social or political issues into the mainstream. Busting out of the gate with their 1992 self-titled debut, Rage needed an image that would uphold their statement. They would find this in photographer Malcolm Brown's most iconic image, one of Vietnamese Buddhist monk Thich Quang enacting self-immolation. Taken in Saigon, Vietnam in 1963, Quang Duc carried out the act in protest of corrupt president Ngozi Diem for oppressing the country's Buddhist religion. Diem was a devout Catholic who attempted to push pro-Catholic policies on the people of southern Vietnam and suppress the Buddhist majority, banning Buddhist flags on the date of their most celebrated religious holiday, Vesak, which commemorates the birth of Buddha. When Buddhists came together to publicly protest, government troops opened fire into the crowd, killing 9 people. 1 month later, troops poured chemicals from dismantled tear gas grenades on Buddhist protesters, causing severe respiratory issues and disfigurement. As a result, religious and political tension in South Vietnam was rising. On the 10th of June 1963, Thich Quang Duc, accompanied by 350 Buddhist protesters, publicly denounced the Diem government, forming a blockade on one of Saigon's busiest streets. There, a cushion was placed in the middle of the intersection, where Quang Duc sat in the meditative lotus pose. A Buddhist colleague then emptied a container of petrol onto the monk's body. Rotating a string of wooden prayer beads, he recited the words, "Homage to Amitabha Buddha," before striking a match and dropping it on himself, sitting quietly as the flames consumed his flesh. In the months following, 5 more Buddhist monks immolated themselves as the Buddhist protests in Vietnam escalated. With its dictatorship of South Vietnam, persecution of the Buddhists, and rampant corruption running through the government, the Army of the Republic of Vietnam overthrew Diem in a coup on November 1st, 1963, assassinating him and his brother, Ngo Dinh Nhu, the next day. Pantera, Vulgar Display of Power. One of the most important groove metal albums ever made, riddled with aggressive riffs and a powerful rawness. Vulgar Display of Power sees Pantera producing some of their hardest-hitting tracks at that point in time. Frontman Philip Anselmo cited that the title stems from a line in cult horror film The Exorcist. The music hits almost as hard as the man being punched in the album's cover art, which often has been wrapped in misinformation and rumors. Former Pantera drummer Vinnie Paul spread around a story that a fan was paid $10 each time he was punched in the face for the cover, ultimately repeating the process 31 times until they had the right shot. The reality was that Pantera had the idea of needing an image of a powerful fist to someone's face, contacting Brad Geiss, who was also the photographer who shot 1990's Cowboys from Hell, specializing in capturing acts in motion. Brad, upon organizing tungsten studio lighting for the desired effect, would get a call from Ford Model Agency, sending over Sean Cross for the session. During the shoot, a hand was placed repeatedly on Cross's cheek, which then aggressively pushed towards the direction needed, attempting to replicate the physical force and reaction of a punch. Although pushed hard with each take, Cross was never actually punched in the process. As for the future of Sean Cross, nothing is referenced in any articles on Vulgar Display of Power, but in the Loudwire interview with Brad Geiss, he does mention the model flying from LaGuardia, the New York-based airport, to LAX. There is a blue-eyed, blonde-haired gentleman in New York by the name of Sean Cross that also looks to be in the same age range that Cross would be now, working as the president and co-founder of Global Business Dev and Revenue for Napster. Yes, that Napster. I'm not confirming it's the same person, but the two do look oddly similar. So what stories or album covers would you like to see in the future? Let me know in the comments as I respond to every one. If you enjoyed this video, a like and a sub would go a long way. We drop music-related content of all sorts every Wednesday. Until then, I'll see you next time. Even if it wasn't true, would taking 31 haymakers to the face for $300 be worth it?